Alright guys, so now it's time to download and install Burp Suite. What the heck is Burp Suite? Burp Suite is actually a toolkit. In other words, it's a piece of software that comes with a bunch of tools that you can use to find vulnerabilities and hack into websites. So it's a proxy, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to set that up and what a proxy is if you don't know in this video. It's also a spider. So just like Google spiders sites and finds every single page, this can spider a site as well to find all the content. It's a scanner. In other words, if you just run a real quick automated scan, let me click on one of these screenshots. These are an example of the scan results. You scan a site and it tells you all the vulnerabilities real quick. And it's also an intruder and a repeater. So if you ever want to, let's say, run a bunch of commands that try to crack a password or something, you can give a list of passwords that you think maybe are likely, and it can run through the list one by one, doing it all in an automated attack, so you don't have to actually type everything out. And it's actually a lot more powerful than that, as you guys are going to see. A sequencer, and it also comes with a decoder if you want to hack session tokens. And even if you guys don't know exactly what these things are, like what is a session token, I don't even know what that is, and you're telling me a tool, don't worry, I'm going to be explaining it everything in detail. I just want to give you guys a real quick overview and explain that this isn't just one simple tool. It's a collection of tools, and they all work amazingly. So if you go to buy Burp, then what you can do is you can purchase Burp from here. It actually comes with two versions. There's a free version or there's a paid version, and the paid version is $2.99 a year. Ugh, a whooping cough. If you live in the United States, the only difference is the free version doesn't have as many of the advanced tools as the paid version. In this video and in these tutorials, I'm going to be showing you guys how to use Burp Suite using the paid version and all the features. But if you guys just want to get the free version, follow along, maybe look at a few of the advanced features and decide if you want to buy it later on, then feel free to do that as well. Everything should make perfect sense, even though you won't be able to actually type it in and follow along like you would if you bought the full version. Now once you purchase it and after you download all the files, what you're going to have is this jar file. So what this is a Java program that you can click and it's going to open up Burp Suite, as we're going to see right here. Now since this is a jar file, you're going to need Java installed on your computer. Now I'm guessing that you already have Java installed on your computer, but if you don't, then you should go and download it before you buy Burp, because let me move that icon back, because you need Java first. So you click it, you open Burp. Okay, this is confusing. There are a lot of different tabs. Okay, a lot of different sub tabs, menus. What the heck is going on? Well, the very first thing I want to explain is just how to set up the bare basics. And before we even do that, before you start configuring the proxy, because that's the first thing we should always do, let me explain to anyone who doesn't know exactly what a proxy is. So if you already know what a proxy is, then you can just fast forward a little bit or skip the rest of this tutorial. It's probably going to be self-explanatory. But for those of you who don't know exactly what a proxy is, or you might have heard of it before and you aren't really sure why the heck we're using a proxy in these tutorials, I'll explain it. What a proxy is a middleman between you and your connection to some server. So let me get my little drawing thing out here. So whenever you connect to a website, what you do is you have your own computer. Here's you chilling at your computer. You have a really simple IP address in this little example, and you go find the IP address of a web server, and you're connected. Alright, that's great, but in this tutorial, as I said, we're going to be using Burp Suite as a proxy. So what the heck is a proxy? A proxy is a middleman that sits between you right here and your destination server, the server somewhere online that you're trying to connect to. So how computers typically communicate is in your browser, you type in the website name, it's like netflix.com, and it translates that to the IP address, and then your computer connects directly to Netflix servers or whatever web server you're trying to get into. So a proxy what this does is instead of communicating directly with this server right here, you're going to talk to the proxy first. You're going to say, hey proxy, I want something from Netflix, probably a movie obviously. So your proxy is like, okay, hey Netflix, give me that movie. And the server goes, okay, here you go. And the proxy gives it back to you. So why would you ever want to do this? It seems like an extra unnecessary step. Well, first of all, there's anonymity involved. In other words, Netflix, it never sees your computer right here. In other words, it doesn't know anything about you. All it knows is that this server, this proxy server, asked it for something and it gave it back. Alright, so that's pretty cool. And that's actually, whenever you're at a like school or a college or a company and they block you from accessing Netflix, then what they did, your server administrator, it said, okay, all computers in this company are blocked from accessing 9999. We know that's Netflix, and they'll probably put other few ones, Reddit, YouTube, whatever they think websites you shouldn't be going to during work, they'll probably try to block. So that means your IP address is forbid from connecting to this IP address. So what you can do instead, I'm not going to recommend this, but I'm just saying it's possible. If you want to, you can say, okay, you know what, I'm not going to go to this site anymore. I am just going to tell this proxy right here, hey, can you go ahead and get some Netflix files for me? So it's going to say, okay, getting them, giving them back, and your system admin is going to look and it's going to say, no, Bucky actually never went to Netflix. He just went to this little server, and that's how a lot of people get around it at school or at work. But like I said, I wouldn't recommend it. That's just how it's done. Just saying. Alright. Now the next thing we need to think about is this. Why are we going to use Burp Suite as a proxy? Well, what Burp Suite's going to do is whenever we connect to a target website, the website we're trying to attack, like this one right here, first of all, it needs to inspect the traffic, the request. Now, whenever you connect to a website, there's a bunch of source code that gets transferred, maybe files that we're going to download, even the HTTP headers, in other words, information about the website we're trying to connect to and how we're trying to connect to it. That is information that Burp Suite, your program, needs to look at first. So you tell Burp Suite, hey, I want to go ahead and connect to this website I'm trying to attack. It looks at all the data, and then it says, okay, here you go, trying to request some files. The web server is going to give it back to Burp Suite, not your browser, but Burp Suite, and Burp Suite is going to do a bunch of stuff. It can analyze the data, analyze the code, find vulnerabilities. You can, look for session tokens. You can do a bunch of stuff, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to use all these tools in the future. And after it's done logging everything, saving everything, analyzing everything, it's going to return it to your computer, your browser, and then you can continue using the site normally. But the cool thing about this is instead of just connecting directly to the server, we now have Burp Suite in the middle, chilling, analyzing, figuring out how to hack the website in the meantime. So it's pretty awesome. So here is what we need to do. We first need to configure your browser to say, okay, whenever I try to go to a web address, don't just connect me to that web address. I mean, it usually does, and that's how browsers are pre-configured. That's how the internet kind of works. But what we're going to say is anytime we type in a web address, send it to the proxy first. So that's what we need to configure through Burp and our browser. So let me show you how to do that right now. So open up Burp Suite, and in your proxy, in other words, the middleman that's sitting in between, you first need to tell it where to listen. Now, it already has all the default settings set up. You just got to make sure that it's running. And whenever you open up Burp, this proxy is running by default, so you don't even need to do anything. It's incredibly easy. Now the interface 127.0.0.1, that just means my own computer. So in this example I said you can just have a separate proxy server somewhere over in Asia or Oklahoma or Russia. You can just have separate servers set up, but since we're just running everything on our own computer, then we just give it this IP. And also port 8080, that's the port it's going to be listening for. So alright, we know we now have a proxy server running on our own computer, listening on port 8080. The only other thing we have to do is we need to say, okay, browser, you usually go to the web servers whenever I type in an address, but now I gotta tell you to go through my proxy first. Now 99% of the time, whenever someone says, what's a good browser to download? I'm gonna say Chrome because I love it, it's fast, it's simple, it's clean. However, in these tutorials, I'm going to be showing you guys how to set up Firefox, and I'm going to recommend Firefox using it with Burp Suite. Why is this? Well, it's a lot easier to get to the network settings and configure other than Chrome. Again, I love Chrome, but for configuring all the settings, it's really easy in Firefox, and I love it for, penetration testing, stuff like that. So how do we do it? Well, go to this menu right here, and if you go to your options, let's scroll up so you guys can see. Then in the network tab, under your connection settings, it says configure how Firefox connects to the internet. So I'm going to click this, and right now we're not using a proxy. That's just how it's set up, how it comes by default. And usually if I just browse any site right now, it's going to work fine, as browsers usually do. But what we want to do is we want to say manual proxy configurations. So whenever we go to a site, instead of taking it to the web server, it's now going to take us to localhost. So type in localhost there. And by the way, let me pull this up. I'm sure you guys already know this, but 127.0.0.1, that just means your own computer, whatever, that's just your home computer. And localhost is just another name for 127.0.0.1. So they're pretty much the same thing. This means, okay, where's the proxy? It's just on my own computer, port 8080. So whatever settings you have in Burp Suite, that's what you need to type in here. And then hit OK. And then hit OK. Now since we have our browser pointing to our proxy, check this out. Now we can go to that website that we just set up, or any website really, and if you go back in Burp, and you click on proxy HTTP history, it's now logging and analyzing every request, which means when we ask it to go get a website, and the website's response, which means the data it sends back. So if you guys don't know what all this stuff means, again, this is a source code. You probably already can see what this is. And all this header information, I'll talk to you guys about that as well, but pretty awesome. So again, that is how you set up your proxy. That is how you set up Burp to point to your proxy. And in the next couple of videos, I'm going to be showing you guys what all of these tools mean and what all this scanner stuff means. And check it out, this automated scanner, it's already finding bugs on this website, and we just went to one page so far. So I know that Burp is kind of overwhelming and confusing at first, but now that we have our proxy set up, we're ready to move on and start learning what all these tools actually do.